Hello, you guys. This is Virginia Kelly. I'm a healer, counselor, healthcare provider, and holistic coach. And today we are with Ariel Mayer. Please, Ariel, introduce yourself.
Good morning, Virginia. I am an acupuncturist, a mother, and I was a former New Jersey Acupuncture Society board member. So I keep myself busy
I,
helping people and helping my kids.
I see that. And I see that in your profile picture, you are with Bobby Kennedy Jr. So do you mind telling us about that?
Yes, that picture was taken a few years ago, but it seems like a great time to repost it since he's doing his thing, running as an independent this year. I originally saw him in person even years before that in Trenton, when he was coming and helping and speaking for different freedoms for families, for the community. So I had to get that picture with him that time.
Of course. And you both
Yeah.
look great.
Thank
So tell us a little bit about the fight for freedom.
So it is always something in our Constitution, freedom of religion, first one. It's been part of this country is fighting for that freedom to be able to express ourselves and freedom of speech, right? Freedom of religion. And um, I saw Kennedy when he was coming around. I knew him just as an environmentalist, an environmental lawyer. He was fighting for that. And as far as like freedom goes, how he got involved with the religious freedom movement, medical freedom movement, health freedom movement, is that there were mothers going to him saying, something's happening with my kids that's also environmental. You care about the environment, you care about the air we breathe. Like, what about the things that we are putting into our children? Like, we care about that too. And we're seeing side effects the way that you see them in the rivers and the streams on the farmlands. Like, that's us. And as an acupuncturist, like, that's how I learned things. Like, we are an environment that's a reflection of the environment outside of ourselves.
I
For
think
one
that
thing.
a common misunderstanding is that environmental issues are outside of your body and not things that we put into our bodies.
Yeah. This is my personal environment that I try to protect, but I also want to protect the outside environment that we all share. And that is a misconception. And that's true. And I think I don't know if you would learn that early on in acupuncture studies, but I
Well,
did,
I
seeing things in relationship to the outside environment, like we're our own environment that has.
Well, I have patients that are mothers and teachers, and they're very concerned with the schedule of injections that the kids who have been submitted to. Because back in the days when we were kids, and I'm the daughter of a doctor and a nurse, so I got every injection out there, and probably I don't have more than a dozen in my lifetime. But nowadays it's crazy. By the time a kid is 18, they're like what, like about 100? Tell us
I
more
don't think
about that.
it's that many, thankfully, but it is considered 72 doses in New Jersey. And it's less of the amount, like sometimes they're put together, different
Gotcha.
doses of different medical treatments, we'll say. And I got my medical records just to see what they were, and it's also less than a dozen. It was my sister, who's 9 years younger than me, and she was born after 87, and she had a lot more. And she certainly, has paid the price for it with her own body having asthma and other issues that I didn't have.
I know a mother who recently had a baby, and she went for her um, basically the checkup after a few months of pregnancy, and they already brought 6 injections. And when she decided that she wasn't ready to do that at the time, mind the baby is like 2 months old, they got very hostile with her and almost threatening, which it was very threatening. It felt very threatening.
I had that experience with my son when he was a baby. And this was actually going to an appointment for myself. And I brought him with me as a baby. And I was being told, because I wasn't getting the protection, that I was going to put him in harm's way and that I could kill him. And I was like, I am breastfeeding my child. I am very healthy. I had 2 home births. I take care of myself, and to such a degree that I am not concerned about those things. And I took off the robe that I was wearing. I said, "You're persecuting me for my religious freedom," because I said at the beginning of the appointment, for religious reasons, my relationship with God, of my understanding, is I am not going to do any of these specific medical treatments that you may be recommending to me. So I always start with that when I go in. Like, I let them know, like, this is where I am. And I said, that was like, what you're doing is just wrong and not respectful of myself. And that's where I find, it's difficult if you don't have a support system. I immediately called people, and having seen over the years, like I said, with Kennedy, like Del Bigtree have been people that have really come out and support. Like, we need this, people who can be out there and help speak for us to say, no, this isn't right. This doesn't feel good. I'm sorry that happened to your friend. That happens a lot. I was kicked out of practices too.
I understand. And, there is a common misunderstanding. And I feel that in this DNA, every issue seems to be binary except for sexuality. Like, either you're pro or against, and there's not room for a happy medium and a conversation. Like, if you are for something, and I would even argue that regardless of religion, if you actually read the papers, people have been labeled an anti-vaxxer when I'm talking about people who, first of all, did not question the medical field. Like my brother, for example, he is like, I'm a pilot. I hate telling the people how fast and how high we're flying. What do they care? They should watch a movie and relax. And I agree with him. I hate when I get interrupted from my movie by giving that information that is totally useless for me, right? So he puts all the faith in the medical field. And it's very threatening when you start looking into things and scientific papers and whatnot. And in the case of Bobby Kennedy Jr., he has his nonprofit that is Children's Health, right?
Children's Health Defense, yes.
Okay, where you can gather more information. And what I like to say, that the people that have been mislabeled anti-vaxxers are not necessarily the people that did not vaccinate their kids. For the most part, there are people who did because they never questioned, and then they notice a striking difference the before and after, where they thought they could have some side effects that they were transitory, but then they were never going away. So this is something that people should educate themselves before mislabeling, misjudging, and taking for granted everything that we're told, because we have to understand that there are interests at play and that this is a business too. And there are big cartels, lawful cartels.
They did away with informed consent in the 80s because parents were noticing changes in their children after the small schedule that you and I talked about. That, like, even after a few of them, parents were noticing changes. So then there became a question of, well, what do we do when more parents are refusing? This is before anything was like mandatory. Doctors did it. That's what they were taught in medical school. And once you take that away, then you have these labels where then you have that like back and forth, when it's like, really, like, most people who are quote unquote anti-vaxxers are not actually anti-vaxxers, more pro-choice. Like, you do the research yourself. You want to trust that doctor, or you want to read the label of the package insert. I mean, it's very hard to get a doctor to give you a package insert of those when you're in and we have people who posted them. Thank goodness they're out there. You can read them, but that's up to the parent. It's up to what you want. So it's a choice. So I want the choice being like educated the way that I did. I see like RFK his eyes were really like opened up over the years. That's like, wait a second, like, where's the research to support this schedule? Where's the placebo double-blind studies to support this schedule? They don't exist.
Yes.
That's just true. They do a lot of the studies, one vaccine against another, an older version against the new one. So that's not true informed consent when you don't tell people, like, this is how they were studied, this is what the side effects are. And
it already tells you something when they don't provide information freely, and a lot of information is like coded. So you get a bunch of random letters and numbers that you don't know what it means. And I know of a parent who actually called poison control to run by them each and every ingredient, the adjuvants, how you say the
adjuvants, yes.
Thank you. And poison control was very concerned, and they asked, what are you planning to do with all these ingredients? And his response was like, me, nothing, but this is like the formula of
it's the ingredient.
Yeah, the ingredients, the prescription of the I don't want to say the word because you two already got a, they already slapped me on my wrist, right?
So it's the ingredient list for the medical treatments. And that's even discussions I've had with assembly people and senators. I say, I read the labels off of the cereal I give my kids. I read these labels off of everything. And I'm paring down a lot of stuff because even, organic things have, coated stuff, natural flavors in them, things that are supposed to be fillers. And a lot of these medical treatments have fillers in them that are supposed to be harmless if you ingest it and it goes down the digestive tract. What does it do when it's injected into children whose blood-brain barriers are still open in infancy? So that is, again, something that poison control is probably like, what are you reading? And it turns out it's like, yeah, this is what is deemed safe and effective. So
yes, and we can all testify to the safe and effective, not so safe and effective. But in this particular case, poison control was actually very concerned, and when he disclosed that this was basically the formula, the ingredients of this shot, they were very concerned, and they told them that they were going to look into it. Now it seems that it's like pretty much the only agency out there that is like fully transparent and responsible poison control. Because we also have to understand, and I started studying homeopathy, and it was mind-blowing to see the history of homeopathy and how a third of the hospitals in this country, back in the days, they were fully and only homeopathical, and how basically the big families with their big names, influence and money, they have funded the universities and pretty much said what can be taught and what can't. And basically anything that you cannot patent, which is everything natural, it's something that they could not make money on. So it was out of the question. And there is a clear battle for everything that is natural health and also spirituality. Like in YouTube, content creators like me, they are put between a rock and a hard place, because it's like we cannot talk about the issues.
It is very difficult because it is a malady of spirituality, religion, spiritual freedom, religious freedom in our society, and capitalism to the degree that these companies can make these products. The issue at hand is that, yes, let the buyer beware is what I remember being taught in grade school, because we do live in a capitalist society. You create something, you can sell it, but like as the person who's buying it, I should be able to make the choice. Do I want to purchase that or not? And we've been, unfortunately, with the childhood schedules, that choice, that freedom, that ability to decide if I want to purchase that product, use that product, has been taken away from us, yet we're still supposed to be told this is freedom. You cannot go to school if you don't take this set of, pharmaceutically funded medical treatments. How is that right? How is that living in a free society? Because they're saying it's to protect everybody. Well, I'm an intelligent woman. And I'm a healer. I'm an acupuncturist. Like, I want to see people get well. I'm not looking to put anybody at risk, but I certainly don't want to, hamper my personal environments or have.
You're also But sorry, but you're also an educated individual, so and you do your research, and that's one of the reasons for censoring. They never censor lies. They don't censor earth flatteners. Nothing against you if you are one, but hello, it's what is being censored historically. Is that what threatens the power that be? And they shouldn't. Now, the thing with the right to manufacture something that it should be a controlled substance is one thing. Now, the same people have the right to make the laws. And this is what is so threatening.
Yes, it is. Because then you're, I don't want to say double dipping, but yeah, they're changing the law so they can produce a product that you have to take. And that just doesn't really help with community health standards, because for the whole community, any medication that we have to take, there's always side effects. Certain people can take them, certain people can't. And it's just for children, apparently there's just like this blanket, like, one size fits all approach. And that's not, I just don't see how that is beneficial to the health care of society as a whole. So it's beneficial to the pharmaceutical industry's bank account. They certainly can keep going, and they're able to change these laws because they have the money to do it.
To
So
lobby.
they have the lobbyists, they have the money to do it, they have the influence, and it's a difficult time, unfortunately, but hopefully more people are able to see through what's going on, especially with what happened over the past few years. I think that, people who were maybe in the dark about the childhood mandatory schedule had their eyes opened up a little bit more, because it's like, wait a second, I can't go to work, I can't go to the concert, I can't do this. And now they're seeing the side effects are much bigger than they ever thought it would be in a trusted entity, which was supposed to be the government. The government was supposed to be looking out and not mandating anything that would be harmful, right? This is like about public health. So.
And I love the argument of a cost-effective solution where they were saying, okay, you are, between the side effects and the benefits, but we haven't seen the benefits. We only seen the side effects.
Only seen the side effects. And like you said, because of the censorship, unfortunately, there's still people out there that I talk to that have no idea that these side effects are actually like something that's affecting people in a very long-term way. So
yes, and I have patients that they don't put it together, even though it's obvious, because when you always go through the questionnaire when this problem start, and they tell me when, and I asked what else happened during that time. They said nothing. So as I continue with the questionnaire, then I go into the mandated shots, and I asked them, did you get not, which one, when? And it was coincidentally. And when I put it together, the immediate knee-jerk reaction I get, that cannot possibly be related. So there is a denial that has to do with an ideology, that it doesn't obey the facts and the reality that we're living.
Yeah. Then that's dogma. You're following something just because. So then that goes into faith, which then goes back to like religious freedom. You have the faith in that, and you want to believe that, and that there's nothing wrong with taking these medical treatments. By all means, that's your choice. That's the country we live in. The problem comes when it's like, you have to do it too for mine to work. You have to do it too for all of us to be on the same page. It's like, really? Do if I have like another means that I know to take care of myself, that I feel is like, right for myself, for my family. And it's the disconnect. I just think that the idea of living in the United States is one. That's why I like RFK Jr. is because it is about like freedom of choice, independence. Like, we should be able to make the choice and think for ourselves. I don't like when we got into this dicey situation of like only the government has the answer to get us out of this. Like, I believe we, the people, have the answer to get us out of this. And that's,
yes, and I think that's something that is going to become more obvious by the day as far as other stuff happens. Something I recall when I was younger, when any of this was even a matter to worry about. I was a teenage kid, and my dad, who was a pharmacologist, he got called by another country, and I'm not going to say which country, to test their medication, their shot. And again, I don't want to say the word. And what happened is that he requested to go with security and as a representative of the Red Cross for self-protection, and they could not guarantee that. So what happened is that he chose not to go. So some other doctor went and approved this medication, because how you're going to tell some of these countries that their shot is not good? You're threatening a multi-billion-dollar industry. So your head could have a price. So what happens is that this shot got approved, and it got some serious side effects, among them death, in which they had to recall it. And the way they recall some of these things is basically also on a cost-effective analysis of how much would cost to compensate injuries versus how much it costs to recall it. So it's really a numbers game, not an ethical consideration. So what happens is that this shot end up getting recalled and redone and fixed, but in the meantime, someone had to pay the price.
That's upsetting to hear, but that's the game that the pharmaceutical industry plays, is, monopoly, money, takeover. You're not going to help them, they'll find someone else to, because they did, like you said, they did capture the medical schools so early on, with the development of those medical treatments, that's the science that they're teaching in the schools. So it's just follow the schedule, we back it up, and that's it. They're not taught about what the side effects may look like. And that's that unfortunately that's where we are. I want to have hope like you do, but it's a very bizarre thing. You said, like, they did recall that shot.
They had to. Now, I don't know why nobody's recalling the shots nowadays.
Very interesting, right? So the same, like, my dad remembers there was like the flu that went around. I forget if it's 20, 30 years ago, so I'm sorry, like, my memory with that. But there was a that like season's flu shot had killed like 54 people, I think it was, and they recalled it immediately. And now the VAERS reporting system has more than that reported. So yeah, where's the recall? Now, I think it's that they were given such a monopoly with the mandates, that they had so much money that, they're just much bigger than a simple recall. Like,
well, there's something I want to say about the virus system.
Oh, VAERS, yeah.
VAERS, okay. But something else regarding the original flu shot back in the days. My dad was one of the first ones to take it, and he was greatly affected by it because he was working in a pharmaceutical company himself, in the development of some of these shots as well. And that's when he started questioning the whole thing, when it hits home. And I'm talking about a professional with boots on the ground, so to speak. But regarding the VAERS system, my understanding is that doctors were, even though they have the ethical, moral, and Hippocratic oath responsibility to report, they were discouraged and even penalized for doing so. So people had to input the data themselves. It's not very straightforward. So that in itself is already a discouragement, not to mention that the conditions that they put for you to input that data, they were not realistic, because they were changing the conditions as time was passing by. And I can testify to this because I had to input that data for someone who passed, and I was not able to input the data before because it was too early, then because it was too late, and a lot of numbers had disappeared. And one of the fights of Doctors Without Borders, it was what happened with those missing numbers.
Yeah, it's a good question. They say that the reporting system is very poor, and it's about 1% of injuries are actually reported. And part of it is exactly what you said. It's doctors not taking the time to do it, not giving the resources to their staff to help a patient do it, or the patient doesn't even know that it exists because it's not well known, and it's a government funded entity. So it's not even the pharmaceutical companies that are helping with any of the damages and the repercussions and the help and aid to the family. It's actually United States, it's the taxpayers. We're actually paying for all the injuries, and it's over $4 billion that have been paid out so far. That they've gone to court, they've gone to a special court that they have to prove. So that's a lot. That's a lot of money to pay out. So something is happening, and I'm so glad that you're wanting to talk about it. We have to keep talking about it.
Well, I've been very conflicted because there's the part of me that wants to speak true and the part of me that wants to keep doing what I'm doing, and I've been penalized to do so. So let's see if this flies.
It's a challenging time in that way, where we have to think, very deeply and strongly about where we are with it. But even RFK himself has, come out, made amazing videos, what he does with Children's Health Defense. And he says, sue me for slander if anything I say is incorrect. And they have yet to sue him. So he's a great resource. The Children's Health Defense, he does a lot there, and he has publicly said that many times. So,
and I bet he almost would love to be sued so he can get that information out.
yeah, he wanted to do debates. He certainly did want to join the DNC debates, and they didn't.
Nobody wants to debate him.
Nobody wants to debate him.
That speaks volumes in itself.
It does. So then you get one-sided mislabeling, and I think that even we teach our children, you can't always, judge a book by its cover, or, in his case, I've heard people say who like what he says, well, his voice sounds funny, you can't understand him. And I'm like, so I thought we were supposed to be kind to people who have certain disabilities. Like, what happened to that?
Yes, indeed.
With him. So, and he's come a long way. Everything, he's just so strong. I've seen him speak early on, just trying to get his head around what I discussed. First, he was an environmental lawyer, and now it was like trying to understand what's going on, where our freedoms are being taken away. And he just has said so many great things that he's like, I haven't changed, the system has changed. Like, this is always who I've been. And that's where I feel like, you and I still need to talk. This is always who we are. We just have to.
They are terrified of him because he's actually the one who has the most following. And I love that he went as an independent, because it's this dual system is so outdated, and both sides are compromised, and the Hegelian, the dialectic of both wings belonging to the same bird, and the illusion of choosing. So we'll see what happens next.
Yes, we will. I'm excited because when he made that announcement to go as an independent, I found it refreshing and encouraging, because that's sort of where I think that we need to focus, is like, what's the message, not the party, right? Like, what's the individual bringing to the table? What is, their belief system that they're going to help with us, with the people.
Yes.
People.
And it's very
the people, not, following the guidelines of what certain industries tell him to do. So
And it's so difficult, and we have to wrap up because I got notified that they're about to cut us off. But it's so difficult to run as an independent because Jesse Ventura talks about this, that at some point he tried to do so. And basically, you're slammed with lawsuits from either or both of the parties, and you have to spend your money basically defending yourself, so you cannot spend your time and money in campaigning. But I think he's the only one nowadays talking common sense that everybody can relate to, that he doesn't have this polarizing response to him, for or against. Is someone who talks common sense and ground us in the reality of the issues.
yes, and he's a like a constitutionalist, I see. I don't want to label him down that. He totally feels that way because he does follow what it is. He believes in protecting our rights. He believes in protecting, the people. And that's a strong sense of individuality, but also for the greater, good of our society. We've lost ourselves there. So as a society as a whole, but I think that individuals will rise up. It is difficult to run as an independent. So, I get nervous when someone does do that who sounds so great, because you're fighting against, like, it's just easier to pick one side or the other. But it seems, there's a lot of polarizing candidates. So maybe we should find somebody who speaks to everybody.
So let's rule for him and wish him good luck.
For God's protection.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ariel, for this. And if anyone has any comments or questions, feel free to ask them in the chat or below, and we will do our best to answer. Thank you so much, and hope to do this again soon.
Thank you for having me, Virginia.